Hello YouTube, welcome to Driven Dynamic, and today I have here my 2005 Honda Accord Euro. Now, the inspiration with this build was essentially cornering is everything, right? So instead of going for power, which I find power isn't really what's needed to modify when it comes to these vehicles, I have gone out of my way to try and decimate all. I try to decimate the competition, Type Rs, GR Yaris's, Honda S2000s, all with this, all with cornering mods, things such as tires, brakes, underbody stiffening and whatnot, and putting my time into that and crafting something magnificent. So starting with the basics, I'm running these 245/40 17 tires on the front, followed by 235 45 17 on the rear. Now we've got TE37s on this. Now the reason why I went with TE37s because it's a classic look, right? But they also have that performance dynamic attached to them as well. You have that lightweight forged wheels, so whenever you're on the track, you have that confidence of knowing that the wheel setup and the tire setup is such a very powerful wheel setup, and you know that with the weight but also the strength, you have exactly what you need to decimate all. Now on this car as well, I'm actually running BC Racing coilovers. I've got 14 kilogram coilovers at the front, 12 kg rear. Now, as well as this, we've also got polyurethane bushing control arms by Super Pro. Now, we've got these to kind of help a little bit with the front end response, as well as eliminating a bit of bump steer. As well as this, I've also got hard race roll center adjusters to essentially do the same purpose. As well as this, I've also got Skunk 2 camber arms in the front as well, essentially to help bring the camber in. I'm running about 2.5 degrees of camber. Now I've chosen this so that when I'm rotating, when I'm turning the wheel, and essentially that I have that lateral grip to essentially lean into the corner, so I've got a larger contact patch on the tire. Now, under the bonnet remains mainly unchanged. The only thing that we really have here is a 50-degree VTC cam gear and a Group M carbon intake. Now, the reason why I haven't spent much money on mods on the actual engine is because I feel that you're spending a lot of money to really gain nothing, essentially. Now, you can gain quite a lot of power with these going with a naturally aspirated build, but you're looking at a lot of money. You're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars to really essentially not have that much of a gain. So I've decided to just kind of keep this car stock. Now this car originally came with the J35 throttle body and an RSP manifold. Essentially what that does is essentially help the linear response of the vehicle. But I've found that the previous owner actually removed these before we sold me the car, so I don't have the benefits of those mods anymore. But when it was running that, I can put down the power figures now of what it was making, and without those power mods now, I don't think there's much of a difference. As well as this, all we've got on here is a Chongdata tune to essentially help with the throttle response, better, quicker and better VTEC engagement, as well as just helping with that linear power band overall. The red line for this car is about 7,800 RPM, and peak power, back when it had the J35 and the RSP, was about 7.1. And then it kind of flattens off after that until you get to red line. So there's not really much use of utilizing the rest of that red line. 7.1 is pretty much all you need. Now, other modifications that we have on this car are the PLM Elusive racing headers and the Fujitsubo exhaust. You'll definitely hear those later on, don't worry. But I'll give you the number one tip. The number one main point for this car is the Euro R Gearbox and LSD. Now, the Euro R Gearbox and the LSD of what transformed this car. Now, this one here essentially has a 4.7 final drive on the vehicle, whereas the original gearbox in the manual CL9, I believe, is about 4.3 if I'm not mistaken. So the final drive on this vehicle is so much shorter, and it really helps with that first and second, because I know the second on the standard Euro gearbox is terrible. Ask me how I know, it's terrible. You put your foot down, you shift into second, and you're completely out of VTEC. Whereas on here, you pretty much stay in VTEC when you shift into second. The LSD as well on this vehicle really wakes it up. It really helps with the cornering, it really helps turning and just putting the power down. It really helps the power delivery. And I think this is generally the main successor of this car. Now, the rest of the parts are good, obviously, don't get me wrong, but this is the part that is night and day with the Euro. Without this car is nothing. Obviously, you can still have a lot of fun, but I'm telling you now, the 4.7 final drive, or even a 5.1 final drive, if you can find one of those, is even better. Now, the only con with this is that sometimes when I'm on the highway and I'm driving around, I'm usually sitting at around 3,000. I used to sit around 2,000 with a standard gearbox. Now, this is not really much of an issue if you're someone who doesn't really care about fuel economy. But if you really do care about that, that is something to really look at. What you can do instead is get a CL9 final drive 6th gear, so then you sit a lot lower at 6th gear because you don't really need 6 on track. Now, brakes on this vehicle, nothing special. I'm running DBA T2 rotors with Intima SR pads. Now, these are pretty good, don't get me wrong, but I think in the future it will be due for a CU2 brake kit upgrade. That essentially increases the diameter of the brake, and instead of having a single piston caliper, we then have a dual piston caliper. So that really helps with just stopping power. It's like a night and day difference. Having that attached with new brake pads, it really helps transform the car. It just makes it so much better.